Hi everyone, I'm here with 𝗕𝗢𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧 today, and I'm super excited for 𝗕𝗢𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧 to share her story with us and her wisdom and lessons learned throughout the whole process. We have a lot in common. We have had a chat before, and it's been really, really nice that our paths have crossed. Hi 𝗕𝗢𝗧𝗂𝗧, how are you?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk with you and to share our journeys together and with everyone else.
Definitely. So so when did you if you start by telling us, like, when were you diagnosed with cancer and what cancer did you have?
And 2009, that's when I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer.
And
Yeah.
you sorry, I am gonna have to ask your age, so just because people compare themselves.
That was not part of our deal, was it? Oh, I was 33 back then.
Wow. So
I'm still 33 though.
yeah,
I'm one of those
exactly.
people that it just doesn't go forward after
Definitely, yeah. I was just about to say that. Wow, so that was you were very young. It was probably a big shock, or
that. Honestly, I don't know. I didn't have time to be shocked. I was by myself. I was working really hard during those times. Most of my days, my times were spent at work, very stressful. The work that I loved, but very stressful environment. And I wasn't diagnosed. They couldn't diagnose me. Right. So I just one morning woke up, I was washing my face, I looked at myself and I felt like there's something off with me. I have to go see a doctor. It was just an inner thing. I can't explain it. Yeah. And then when I went to my doctor, general practitioner, he did a little test, and he saw some dots, and he was like, there can be nothing. Because I had a history of thyroid issues, and so he was saying that these nodes, they can over time get bigger just because of the malfunctioning of the gland here and there, and they can be just nothing. And
so the problems that you had before, it was just
going out of balance, like many people will have it, and it wasn't something that was the whole time.
And were you taking any medication to
not at a time
thyroid? No,
not at a time, because I was fine. So I did even my blood work right there and then, and the blood work was fine, so the hormone levels were fine. And but he told me, to be sure, they have to do a biopsy to just see what it is. I knew, kind of. And I think that the only moment that I had, that when he left the room for me to get back, put my shoes on, because I was laying on bed and he was doing the thing, I had my moment there.
Yeah.
I think I sat for like a minute, 2 minutes maybe, I don't know, very short time. I cried, and then I got up and I was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. That was it, honestly. So at least at the time, biopsy didn't show anything.
Wow.
I had 2 biopsies, different sites, different places, and none of them really showed anything. The second one was quite extensive. They went really in deep layers, and they were like, we can't see anything.
So it was like they could see on the ultrasound that there were some nodules or some cysts?
Yeah, they were like dots. They were like 2-3 tiny dots. And so basically there was no diagnosis till then. And then nevertheless, if you needed to get treated for a thyroid scenario surgery, the specialist has to send you to a surgeon, right? So as I was going through all of these things and figuring it out, somebody suggested a surgeon that they really trusted with his work and his expertise and his experience in especially with thyroids and whatnot. So I took all my paperwork and I went to him. And again, the moment I entered his office, I'm not really a fan of doctors, personally. Yeah. I'm not against them, but I'm not a big fan also. Yeah. I had many really bad experiences. But the moment I entered his office, it was something, like, I felt like I can trust this person. Okay. Like whatever he will tell me, I will listen. There was just, again, it was an inner knowing. Yeah. So he told me, he looked at my stuff and he, you know, did a little examination and then normal stuff. And then he said, "Do you want my opinion?" And I was like, "Yep." Yes. And he said, he wrote, "And this is the hospital tomorrow. You go make an appointment. We have to get you in now." And I was like, God. Okay. Wow. And literally it happened that fast after that. The next day I went to the hospital, put my paperwork, they admitted me, running the blood tests and stuff pre-surgery. The next day I was in a room, done. Wow. So because you've lived in so many places, I just want to make sure, were you in America then? No. Okay. At the time I was living in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. Mm-hmm. I was working for a news agency. And then when it came to this point, I actually went back home to Iran, where I'm from, because in Dubai, the medical system was a bit complicated. Yeah. So at home, but that doctor that told you that was in Dubai? The very first doctor that was my general practitioner that did the tests, yeah. Yeah. The first biopsy was there as well, and then I went home. Did the second biopsy, and then saw the surgeon and all that stuff. And I did my surgery back home, everything back home. It shows how important it is for you to kind of, you know, like you mentioned about doctors, you know, I'm also, you know, doctors and hospitals are not my favorite place either. I have been quite fortunate that I've had a good experience with like my GPs and even when I was diagnosed. But, you know, taking a little bit charge of your, you know, health and just going, okay, I'm going to go to the best person that I can find who is specialized, and I'm going to get a referral, and I'm going to, you know, trust my gut. And I think that speaks volumes, because I think so many people, like, you know, especially in places like, you know, Australia and in the UK and in Europe, where you have a free health system, you know, you get put on this conveyor belt and you don't get an opportunity to feel that connection that you kind of felt, you know, like you just feel like, oh, you know, it's for free, I'm just, you know, gonna do this, and, you know, and it's so important for you to feel that the trust, because basically your life, it's in their hands. You know, it's 100%. If diagnosed, it could have cost your life. Not only that, but also, you know, like people go into surgery for the most silly things and they don't come out. It doesn't have to be cancer. Like people go for the most simple surgeries and they don't make it out for some reason, you know. So nevertheless, your life is in their hands. Like, and nobody can predict, but at least if you go in with the trust, it's a different energy, you know, altogether. Like, I remember when I was in the room, I was prepped for surgery. They were waiting for him to come, and he came in right before they put me under, and he was like, you know, like kind of petting me, and he was like, "How you feeling?" And I was like, "I'm good." Oh. And he was like, "Are you ready?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Because I'm going to chop your head." Because, you know, like thyroid is like here, and you can't see it because he did such a brilliant job, but we have a line like from here to here. He did. And he was like, "Because I'm going to chop your head." And I started laughing, and I was like, "Do it." And, you know, that was it. And then they put me under that. Those little things, it makes such a big difference, right? Like, yeah, I know. You know, you have that trust, and I'm not saying that you live because you have that trust, but I think it's really important. that connection and that trust is really important.
So what happened on that surgery? Did they take the whole thyroid out?
So basically, you know, as you know, with any surgery, when they're removing something, before they close you, they have to send it for results right away. Like they have to take that quick response to. But as he opened up, due to his experience, so when they look at it, they can tell. Like from the look and shape and everything, they can tell if this is nothing or this is something, or they know it. Nevertheless, they send it, they got the results, and they did everything. They cleaned up. So they remove. I have about probably few percent, very little, like 2, 3, maybe 5% of tissue left. That he left it there because his theory was that you're very young. And I don't want to remove the whole tissue, although it would be not functional as much, but I still want to leave it there. There was a debate between the two of them with my specialist, but nevertheless, everything else was cleaned out. So,
so while you were open, they sent you to the lab, and at the same, while you're still open, they, because I've heard that with thyroid, it is like that, because I think that ideally they would like to keep some, right? So I think I think in Australia, I have heard somebody else who had thyroid cancer, so they paid for the test to be done there and then. But normally, I think it's something that you can pay extra. I'm not sure, but it's interesting.
I didn't have to pay for it. I mean, I don't know, every part of the world, maybe they function differently when it comes to these things. Back home, as far as I was told, that was procedure.
So I think with thyroid, maybe it's that.
So that anytime they do that, they need to get it tested right there and then, before they move forward, and before they, you know, they make a final decision on, like, even if they know by looking at it.
So when you woke up, so you already had a kind of a diagnosis, this is what you have, was stage 2.
So when I woke up, it was hell. There was no diagnosis at the time. Nobody was talking to me about that. I couldn't even see straight. Like I was under like influence of like millions of things, and the pain. So I couldn't swallow my own saliva. So I constantly had something near my mouth, like kind of just letting this come. It was impossible. So painful. I couldn't talk. I couldn't. So there was no talk about anything. He had come seen me. I couldn't really, you know. He had gone, and then the next day, when I was a bit more aware, I still couldn't talk or do any of that. And he came to say that I have to eat something, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like I can't even swallow my own saliva. Like I'm just putting everything out. Like water doesn't go down. How can I eat? He was like, if you don't eat now, it's gonna get really difficult. Like this process is gonna take way longer.
Ouch.
You gotta chew and swallow now. So we're not even talking about any of my diagnosis. And also there is this thing that, okay, they do this quick test when you're in surgery just for the doctor. They don't release right away that result to the patient. Then they do like a proper analysis, and then they gave you that. So I didn't have that yet. And so anyway, so that was what I knew at the time. You eat? Yeah, I mean, I was a vegetarian, but he ordered me some chicken kebabs, and he said, you gotta eat this and you gotta chew it.
Oh my God, the meat, that's hard.
So there was a grilled chicken kebab.
Grilled, like hot.
I mean, they do the best quality ones in Iran. We were known for it. Nevertheless, it was not something I was eating, and especially in that scenario. But he said, I don't care how long it takes. It's just one stick. Even if you can't finish it, but at least half of it, take 5 hours to chew. I don't care. You got to chew and swallow.
Wow.
Funny enough, though, the next day my pain was gone.
Wow, incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I was still under, like, that day, I still was still under, you know, I had the antibiotics and probably a little bit of painkiller, but they actually released me the next day from the hospital.
Wow.
Like I only spent like 3 days altogether from before and after and everything. And
He
they
knew
released
it,
me.
right? He knew it, that that's what you needed to do, right?
I mean, I had 100% trust on him, to be
Yeah.
honest. It has rarely happened to me to trust a doctor this much. For some reason, I was just like, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I think I was so frustrated over time with all the tests that had no answers and people who didn't know what to do. I felt like he was 100% clear, and that really spoke to me, and I was just like following his instructions, you know.
Yeah.
So I only got the diagnosis thing when I got home. He said, you know, you go home and then come and see me in 10 days so I can remove your stitches. We will talk then. I was like, okay. So I went home, and then when I went 10 days later to remove my stitches, that's where I got all my full diagnosis, and he sat me down and he talked, and we went over everything, and yeah.
So when you were at home, for those 10 days, did you have this feeling of uncertainty, or kind of you knew that, you know, obviously that, you know, it was, that it was cancer, but it was just a matter of knowing what to do next from here, or?
Yeah, I think it's one of those weird things. I think, I guess every single human being will deal with this situation differently.
Yeah.
In my case, you know, I don't know if it's due to personality or hardship in life experiences or whatever. I was just like, you know, all right, so I just not need to know what's the next step.
Yeah.
I was not lost, or I was not I didn't have any uncertainty, you know. I was like,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna, yeah. So like, I think that's how my mind also works. Like I give myself time to freak out or cry or get sad enough, but then I don't stay there. I'm like, okay,
what's next?
Yeah. So that was more or less that. And I don't, at the time when I was released, I actually went and stayed at my friend's house instead of my mother's, because my mother was still working, and she was very worried that, you know, she's not home and she can't, you know, help me and take care of me and whatever. And so I went and I stayed at one of my friend's house, and it was actually a nice environment. So we're laughing and chatting and like nothing has happened. Like I was just fine. Like I was alive, you know. That was the most important thing for me at that moment. I before my surgery, when I was waiting in that room, they came, they put me in, they plugged me to things, they went till the doctor comes, and I had probably about 10-15 minutes by myself, just in that cold room. And it's kind of, you know, it's a special moment. Like you're there and you just like, you have no idea if you're gonna open your eyes after that. So I had enough time to kind of make myself some promises and make some, you know, decisions and of how I want to live my life when I'm out of this room.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You know, like I really, it was a very, you know, decisive moment for me. I was like, okay, so I was not thinking if I get out, I was thinking when I get out of this room. And I was like, that is a second chance in life given to me. That's on me, on how I'm gonna choose to use it.
Yeah.
So I promised myself certain things. So that's why after, when I went out of the hospital, and I was like, I have to live with joy and love and just, you know, just changing many other things. But I started right there. I was like, I'm alive, I'm gonna enjoy it.
Awesome. And so when you went back to see him, like, what was the next step?
So when I went back to see him, we removed the stitches, and he shared he delivered all the, you know, information to me. And he was quite he passed away, unfortunately, very early, very young age. He was quite an awesome human being, and he had a great sense of humor. So he said, you know, it was a stage 2. And he said, it's child play, like it's nothing, like you got it easy, sister, you know. But you need to come. I had to leave, like after the day he removed my stitches, the next day actually I had to get on the plane to go back to Dubai to work.
Oh,
I had no choice. So he said, you know, with the conversation also alongside with the specialist, they said they can't give me any medication for the thyroid yet till I go through my radiation.
Okay.
And he said, you don't necessarily have to do it right now, but within a month from now, we want you back here so we can get you through that. Once the radiation is done, then we can start the thyroid medication.
Okay.
I was like, okay. So
when you so there was no chemotherapy, so the only treatment you were going to receive was radiation.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was a very heavy radiation.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went back. I had to cover my neck because of the sun exposure to the scar, and I went straight back to work. And but after a month or so after I came back, not having the thyroid medication through that time, it's a challenge because you don't have a thyroid anymore. Your body goes out of whack, like hormones all over the place, like everything, you name it, within days, like you're like, bruh.
Yeah. And you went back straight into working long hours, into your stressful job.
Well, I went straight back to work. I had few projects that I had committed to. Yeah. So I went back to finish them and, you know, deliver my commitments. But I was giving myself breaks on it because obviously I was just out of surgery. Like I couldn't, you know, like, and everyone knew. So like I was gone for surgery. Yeah. And then I went back after a month or little more than a month. Yeah. So then I was, you know, referred to a specialist for the radiation treatments, therapy, whatever it's called. So for this case, it was there was a center specialized for this kind of few radiation therapies for thyroid cancers, for kidney dialysis, and that center they have few different levels just for these things. So I went there, and they, with the radiotherapy there, it's like for thyroid, they actually give you a shot of that radioactive liquid to drink. It's not even a shot, it's like this much, it's very tiny, it's like a sip, but it's huge, like basically
throwing an atomic bomb inside you.
The room is all prepped. The person who's going to give it to you is dressed like astronauts. And you're there and you have no idea what's going to happen. And then they open the thing like the movies. And they bring the thing out and they just show you how to open it and what to do with it. And then they leave the room.
And just drink it.
And so then you open it, you drink it, and then there's another door that goes straight to your room that you're going to be there because you have to be in isolation because you're dangerous to others. And then they talk to you through radio, mic, whatever, that you need to drink as much water as you can constantly right away because they want you to pee, flush it out as fast as you can, and then they want you to sweat to get it out of your skin, and they want you to shower a couple of times a day as you sweat to wash things out. And
so is the radiation, do they, like, is it just here or is it everywhere, or how does it work?
Well, when you drink that, it goes everywhere. That's why they want to wash it off of you.
Oh, so that is the treatment. Just the drinking is not like you go in a machine and okay.
No,
because
but that's a very high dose. Like especially the dose they gave me, actually, the doctor told me that's the highest they can give to drink. But so it does the job as it gets in. They just want to make sure nothing is left. So they wanted the radioactive to go in and go like do a sweep. But of course, if it stays in your body, it just so like immediately they want to get it out of you, and you are responsible for that action. You have to get it out of you, which is insane.
And it's insane because I mean, so you send home afterwards, how do you get sweating?
I didn't get sent home. I was in isolation in the center.
So, but how do you sweat?
Well, they were saying that the room was warm. They were saying get under the blanket, and you start feeling really sick. You're gonna sweat because it's heavy duty radiation. It's like
so you started feeling unwell.
They will give me through this double door thing. They will put food and also like a pill for nausea. Because it was really bad, and I couldn't really eat even like the food. So I have my friend would come and deliver tons of like waters of sparkling water, like something to make it a little different for me, like taste wise, because drinking, I had to drink minimum, like if just to have an idea about the measure. The big bottles of water.
Yeah, truly.
I had to, whatever that is, like the large size, minimum, I had to drink between 6 to 8 of them a day, minimum.
Even if it's 1.5, that's a lot.
It's a lot. That's a lot. Like that was a minimum. And,
like 10 liters of water.
So
and then you had a toilet there as well, that you could just go to the toilet.
The room was just a room, totally isolated. Only a tiny window to I don't know, to the trees, but very small, and like jail, really.
I was going to say, it sounds a little barbaric, to be honest.
It was. I had a TV and phone, and there was a bathroom and a shower, and I had stacks of like towels, clean towels, and like clean bed sheets and all that if I wanted to change things, because nobody would come in unless they were dressed to protect themselves. So
how long were you there for?
5 days.
Wow.
On the third day, someone came in to measure the level of radiation in me. So the astronauts came in with the machine, and they were just sweeping me around. And it was just like some buzz, if it's over a certain number, you're not allowed to go out. So then on the 5th,
and that was just one drink. In the first day.
That was it. That was all I was.
Wow.
But I tell you, on the 5th day, when they came, the doctor came, the radiation doctor, I started begging him. I was like, please let me out of this room. I can't stay here. Like, I was like, in my mother's house, nobody's there. I'm alone the whole day. Yeah. She can go stay somewhere else. I will lose my mind if I stay here one more day. Like, I'm gonna go mental.
That must have been so hard. What did you think, like, in those 5 days? Like, what was it? That's like mental torture, kind of, in a way, isn't it?
It was insane. It was, and I knew about it because a family friend, many years ago, when I was a kid, had the same surgery and had the same treatment in France, not even back home. And I knew something about it, so it was not a total surprise. But being in the position, it's and then like, it's just your body goes through so much because of the radiation. So the surgery for me was piece of cake. The treatment was what killed me. Like, they released me based on my begging. He made me promise that I don't touch anyone. I was like, just let me out of here. And I went home and I was very athletic. I was always I was always active. I was always in sports. I was teaching a lot of sportive stuff as my hobby. And when I went to my mother's house, I couldn't get up to go to the bathroom by myself.
Oh my God, Nusha.
Like I had to hold on to the wall to get from a couch to the bathroom, which was 20 steps. Like my whole body was just like shivering, like the muscles were all like, there was no strength whatsoever. And that's what radiation does to you.
Oh my gosh.
It was horrible.
How long were you like that for? Could you eat?
I started having my appetite slow. Well, my mother was force feeding. She would come home at night and she was like, I don't care, you gotta eat this, you gotta eat that. Yeah. Like they fed me things that I usually don't eat because I was a vegetarian.
I was about to say.
So, but, you know, she was making, in Iran, they make this liver thing because it's really good for iron and whatever.
But it's quite strong taste, if you don't eat meat.
So she was making it like very juicy.
Oh my God.
But my appetite slowly came back. I mean, I had to eat stuff she was forcing, but
and could you and then when you went home, like could you like go to the toilet normally, or was it the whole thing was like, did you have like constant diarrhea or couldn't?
No, that was fine. It was just fine. The stamina was gone.
Just feeling weak and feeling unwell.
Extremely weak. And then the first couple of days and nights suddenly was like, randomly I would start shivering. It would get so cold and I would have like cold sweat all over me. And like my mom would put like 6 whatever throws things on me and I would still be like shivering like crazy. And so the body was
trying to get the things out there.
Like the body is so powerful indeed. Like it fights to get the things out of you, but oh my God, yeah, it goes through hell. It really does. So I think after maybe a couple of days home, slowly my natural appetite started to come back slowly, like I felt like I crave little things. Not a huge appetite, but I think I was at home with like that for about maybe 10 days.
Yeah, wow.
And then I had to go again and see that doctor, the radiation person.
Yeah.
And they had to run a test on me and they put me in a machine and all that shebang. And they sent me for some extra, because the thyroid is just like very close to the lungs. Then they sent me to do a huge, I don't know what it's called in English, but they take picture of they have to inject you with something and then they take pictures of your lungs so they can see.
A circle or?
Yeah, I can't remember.
I think it's a CT, like, yeah.
Like it was quite intense because of the thing that they were injecting.
It's a little bit more radiation as well.
Mm-hmm. So they want to see through the lungs, like clearly making sure nothing from here has gone actually there. And they put me into something else to check the lymph nodes and whatnot and zillions of tests and the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And then the specialist started the medication, the thyroid replacement medication that I'm on since 2009.
Which probably started feeling a bit more kind of balanced back, right? Because at the beginning, the body, it's a little challenge. I guess, again, I think like case by case may vary. For me, it was like in the beginning, my body was challenged to accept the medication and find balance with it. So it took a while. It took at least 4 or 5 months 6 months to come
to a place that they can say, okay, for this next 6 months, that would be your dosage.
Yeah.
Solid. Yeah, maybe even more. So yeah, I was out of whack for quite some time.
So when did you start getting your strength back?
So after all these tests and stuff were done, a couple of weeks down, and once I get all the medication and whatnot, so I left. Because I was not living there, so I went back where I was living. And I had some home project, like things that I could finish from home, like edits and whatnots. And so I was taking it easy. And I was also like kind of calibrating myself and thinking, okay, what are my next steps and what I'm gonna do and whatnot. And so I was literally really, really weak. So there was no way I could right away jump into a gym, or you know, like it was a mission. Just walking was a mission. Like I would get tired like in a minute. Like I would be like, okay, I need to sit down. Like as if like somebody had stripped down your muscles, like your body is left without any muscle power. It was just so weird. And I think it was after a month that I went back to my home, my own place. A friend of mine just said, you know, like, I started to go to this yoga studio. Do you want to come with me? And I was like thinking, you know what? I can just be in child's pose. Sure. Yeah. Like whatever I can do, I'll do. So I started going to vinyasa class. I did tell the teacher from the beginning, I was like, I'm out of a huge treatment. That's all I told her. And my body is super weak right now. So I would be in there doing what I can. Yeah. And that slowly started me back. That yoga class changed my life. But it just, my life direction started to change right there from that class. Wow. But yeah, so slowly I started building, you know, the strength and stamina back. And then I think after like maybe 2-3 months of like I started going to the class at least 3 times a week. Yeah. And gradually I could obviously do more. I got a little stronger, and you know, I think after 3 months, as I was doing the yoga classes 3 times a week, I started going to the gym. Yeah. So yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, I would say it may take some longer for some or shorter for some. Yeah. I think, again, it depends. Yeah, definitely. I did. Yeah, yoga has helped me as well so much. And then after that first session of chemotherapy, and second and third, my body was so weak that, you know, yoga has helped me to build on that strength and that connection with the body, which was really, really important, I think, for my healing. So when you talk about like you changed the whole direction of your life, what are the things that you have changed in your life after that? So, so based on the promises I've made to myself, one of the things I promised many things to myself. Until this day, I've done my best to commit to my, you know, stay committed to my promises. I'm not saying 100% managed, but I've been doing my very best. But one of the things were that I just wanted to not be in a stressful environment, working in a stressful environment. And also I wanted to do more things that I loved, that gave me joy. And my job was something I loved. You know, I was in photojournalist and I adored it. But the stress level, I think is not for everyone, and I'm a very sensitive person, so I was absorbing everything that I was, you know. So when I started I used to do yoga before, but it was just for stretch. Yeah, like I was heavy duty athletic, and I was just stretching with a yoga class to feel good. Yeah. But when I started going to that class, and I think I credit also to the teacher, that very specific teacher, and a huge credit to the practice itself. I started feeling so much connection with my breath and my body, and also it just opened this door. I started feeling so good within my own body that I wanted to learn more about the practice, like what is going on, like how is this, and I wanted to learn more about the philosophy. And I just suddenly I was like, I need to understand this more, you know. And so it all came together, you know. Like I said goodbye to my job, and I still had some, you know, photography jobs that I would do on the side that was not news related, because they would pay my bills, and they were not as stressful. I didn't enjoy them, but they were not stressful. So I was still doing some of those that will pay a good chunk of money, but I quit my stressful job. And I think after 6-7 months of being in that class and going through certain like processes within myself and stuff, I took off and I went to India for months, and I wanted to study. I wanted to study with, you know, I've been there before once, but not really in that capacity. So I went studying with people that I was told I can learn a lot from. Not in the famous places or anything, like, you know. And I kept
studying yoga or everything, yoga.
I went to study yoga as a physical practice. I went more for the philosophy. I went there to study how to chant. I went there to study different types of meditations and breathings, and I just went there to just learn as much as I can.
Traditional way of living, right?
Yeah, totally different way of living, and I wanted to learn it in a traditional way. That was what was speaking to me. And so I came back. So for a year after that, that was what I was doing. I would come back for a month or two, do 2-3 jobs that were paying me well, and then I would go for another 3-4 months and just dive back into my studies and my practices and just keep going forward and learning and trying to figure out, okay, what is my next move and where I'm gonna go. And you know, I didn't know what. I just knew that part of that chapter of my life was about to be done. Like I wanted to move from that place. I wanted to live a different way. I wanted to work in a different way, and I wasn't sure how, but I knew that's that. So that class definitely was the start of all of it. So
it's so beautiful what you're saying, because sometimes when we make a tiny little shift, right, a tiny little thing, we don't realize that it just helps us to go on a total different path, and you know, start building on something so big. But sometimes I feel people get discouraged because they think like, what's a yoga class gonna do? And you get discouraged and you don't try and you don't do anything, and you kind of miss out on really living, on going down that path that, you know, that potentially was a path that would make you a lot happier, you know, within, you know, yourself. And you know, small shifts make such a big difference. And I think, you know, another really valid thing that you said is that you left behind everything that you knew, and it sounds like that you open your heart fully to a world of possibilities. And it wasn't like you didn't need a plan and you needed to know and you were just open to a different way of living. And one thing fell after another, right? Like heaven after another, and different doors started to open up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was less caught up in the idea of making plans then and there. Obviously, at some point you have to make decisions and have a little idea. But at that moment in time, that was not my priority. For some reason, my priority was just to be. And just, I was really open to, I was really in touch with my heart in a very strong way. I don't think I have been that deeply in touch for a long time till recently, actually. And I was just really listening, and I was like, I'm not quite sure what that means or how does that make sense right now, but this is what I have to do. I feel like this is the right thing, so I'm gonna go there, or I'm gonna, you know, stay there.
Yeah.
And it was just right, because, and then things, as you said, things would just show up in my life. I will meet people that I've met some people during that time so randomly, so, I mean, nothing is random, but so unexpectedly, that they became a connection to something now in my life. Like, it's just so crazy.
Yeah.
But I think the openness, also, you know, the acceptance of what is, and the willingness to let go of certain things, like just saying, okay, that's done. Let it go, so there's something else can come in. It's a little scary, I know, especially when you don't know what's going to come in. You're like, okay, I have zero clue. But I think, no, you don't always need to know.
I know. Well, the reality is we don't always know. We think we do, but we don't.
Exactly. We always think so much that we're in charge of everything, and we're not.
No, we're not. Definitely.
We're not. Yeah.
So what would you say was the hardest thing that, you know, in your journey?
Well, the hardest thing is and will be that I'm on a medication forever.
Okay. Yeah.
It goes sometimes out of balance, like my body sometimes starts acting out depending on whatever. And I was actually talking about it today. I was like, nobody, unless you're in the same shoe, you will not understand how annoying it is that you have to depend on a doctor for the rest of your life. Because I have to be tested every 6 months, just for the levels of whatever thyroid hormones and whatnot, making sure that I'm on it right. Based on their final decisions, they're always trying to keep the function of my thyroid slightly towards hyper. Not hyper, but slightly in that direction.
And you probably need to be very connected to what's happening in your body, because if you feel that in the middle of the 6 months is not working, you need to go back there and...
you'll know. Thyroid, hormones, if something goes off, you'll know. Like, it's hard not to know, honestly. They make themselves apparent, like, so well. So,
or your partner or your husband will, or whoever you live with.
Like, it's hard to miss. But you know, like every 6 months minimum, sometimes even more. Like if occasionally, like throughout these years, maybe twice or 3 times has happened that I had to change the level of the medication. And then it's every 3 months. And then if it's okay for quite sometimes, like if the body is balanced, then it's every 6 months. Then once a year you need to do some. The first couple of years the first 2 years I had to do a full body scan. So I went in, they give you tiny, like a drop of radiation, and you go through the whole shebang, a machine that goes all around you. And then the second year, the third year, they didn't need to do that, but you still have to do all the
blood test,
imaging, and the blood test is every 6 months. And I mean, just knowing that you have to depend on a doctor and a medication for the rest of your life. You know, that's something that is really, really annoying. You gotta, I mean, you make peace with it. I mean, this was started 2009. We are 2020. So it's about 11 years. You make peace with it, but you have your moments every now and then. So I think the most challenging part is just, I don't know, just accepting that and kind of finding a way to deal with it. And I don't know, I guess after that, I would say right that time, during that intense time of treatments and the treatment was, it broke me.
It sounds like it was.
Like, even as a person who I am, I feel like I have a lot of strength, and I do, not only physically but mentally. I have to say though, actually, because there was also an extra element when I went home from the radiation center, about a day and a half later, I had a professor, a university professor, when I was studying photography. He became one of my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And out of nowhere, he passed away. And I was just back home right after radiation. Today I got home the next morning. My dad called me just to tell me that my professor has died. He was sick for a couple of months. Nobody knew. He didn't share it with anyone. So that right there was just, I think I cried probably for myself and for him together for about 2-3 days nonstop.
Yeah.
So that part of the whole process was, I think, what really broke me for quite some time. It was very, very challenging. That part was very challenging. Yeah.
And have you been able to find any positives on the journey?
Well, I'm alive. I mean, it's kind of be more positive than that.
Yeah.
I had an amazing life so far. I mean, I had a lot of challenges, but it was not even a year after my surgery that I was in the middle of India, like eating with my hands and, whatever I was doing. And I traveled a lot after that. After that, I decided to leave Dubai. I was between then and landing here. I went to so many places. I visited many friends. I spent time in different countries for like months here, 2 months there, 1 week there. I was just searching to see what would call me in. Like, where would I feel like, where would I suddenly be? And that would be it for now,
Yeah.
I met incredible people because of that experience.
Yeah.
And I just, landed in New York with my partner. And yeah, I mean, I think.
So was your partner with you all of this time, like in India?
No, we met after all. After all that process was already done. I think that experience was what made me change my life. And just start living my life, not for others, and choosing myself over everything first. I was someone who always put myself at last, like everybody else first, and then maybe me.
Yeah. And
paying attention to what I want and what makes me happy, how I want to live. And I mean, I say sometimes that was the best thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, but it's true.
It's true. I know.
As much as it sucks to go see the doctor every 6 months, but my life changed for the better.
Awesome. So what does life look like now? The work that you do, and tell us a little bit more about it, because I'm, super excited for us to share.
So now I am in my closet. That's how life looks like. No, I don't live in a closet, but we're in quarantine, obviously, so that's the quietest place I can get.
Yeah.
I still have photography as part of my life.
Yeah.
That's something that will always be with me. It's just in a different form and shape and format. I used to photograph individuals before this quarantine happened. Like, I would work a lot with movement artists, dancers, athletes, things like that. Mm-hmm. Those kind of projects that makes me really happy. And but I also have been deep into health and wellness since 2009. So yoga, meditation, aromatherapy, breath work. I'm still learning, I will forever be learning, and I teach all of that. So I do workshops and things like that. now everything is virtual. So I have a program that I have mixed, you know, photography and mindfulness as a creative healing offering. So then people can use these tools to, what I've learned through my experience, something that became very clear at some point when I got sick was that I've neglected myself. I've neglected myself so far that I got sick. Like my body was like, enough. And that was a journey of healing in that sense as well. After that, just trying to understand all the issues that you have, all the little, you know, programming, all the things that you think about yourself, where they come from, why this happened, how we can, all of that. And starting to learn about self-worth and self-love and really committing to yourself. So that has been a journey since then, and I think it will be for forever. So this offering actually also comes from that I believe now that self-love is the foundation for everything in your life. If you don't love yourself, nothing else will really fall into place. You will think certain things are in place, but if you excuse me, look at them deeply, there are a lot of things that you feel is missing. Like till you love yourself so much that you're full acceptance with who you are, how you are, what you are, where you are. And then start doing everything in your life from that place.
Yes.
Then you can love more. You can love better. I don't know if that's a term, but you can do more. You can show up in the world from such a powerful place and be of service to so many in a very effective, loving, you know, amazing, inspiring way. So the work that I do now is really based on that, like really cultivating, opening the door for self-love.
Awesome, that's beautiful. Through creativity, which is you know,
photography.
When we first connected, it was when you talked about it. I just reminded myself in my own journey, which I went through. I think we have so many similarities. You know, the whole self-love piece that I had so much work to do as well. And I remember reading a book, and the book said, you know, now that you have cancer, write it down 3 things that you want to do, but you haven't done because you haven't had the time, or because you know, and all of a sudden, you know, there is this urgency for you to doing those things that gives you joy. And coming from somebody who I believe you know, not the most creative, you know, the 3 things that I wrote down, they were very much creative. And it was reading and dancing and singing, and, you know, music, listening to music, because, you know, originally I come from Brazil, and I have always been very connected to music. I play the piano. I can still play, not very well, but I can still read the music and the singing and the dancing, and reading has always been my passion, but I had stopped doing it since I've had the kids or whatever. And when you said that you had this program, you know, connecting the like cultivating the self-love through the photography, I thought, oh my God, this is so needed, because we don't stop our lives before we get sick to give ourselves permission to do things that we love. I feel we spend most of our times on this treadmill of doing things that we think we should do and we are supposed to do because of the society or others or our family or partners or our family. But, you know, when you look into it, there is 0 time for what we want to do.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's beautiful the work that you're doing, because you bring together those 2 so important components to give yourself permission through something concrete, tangible that you can hold on to, so you can start cultivating that self-love.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we just ignore ourselves, basically. Like, we don't exist. We don't have desires. We don't have needs. We don't, you know, we don't matter. basically it becomes that, even if we're not saying that, but in action, that's what it is. So, and that has its own consequences, you know. Your body sends you so many signals which we tend to ignore over time, and then eventually something comes up. And as you said, unfortunately, for most of us, unless something major happens, we do not open our eyes to it. And I guess every human needs to go through their own experiences, but my hope is by promoting this and by cultivating this approach of like really thinking about self-love and thinking about what you desire, how you want to live, who you know, like what you want to do, really, like what makes your heart sing, and just accepting who you are, like being so amazingly grateful, like this is you exist, you have this life, you have this opportunity, you have this body, you have so many possibilities. And I think my hope is by putting this out there over and over and talking about it, hopefully some of us don't need to get sick before, you know.
We definitely share the same passion there, because I feel that I don't wish on anyone what I had to go through.
Me too.
It was brutal as well. And I really wish for people that they can have their wake-up call before it's too late.
Totally.
Yeah.
I don't wish it for anyone. And yeah, I just hope that we find more ways to connect with ourselves, so we don't need that major hit.
Yeah.
You know.
So now my last question is, if you were to meet today somebody who had the same diagnosis as you had, what would you say to that person?
I would say to them, you'll be okay. It's going to be hard and it's going to feel like shit for a while, but you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
In most cases, at least with thyroid cancer, in most cases, people are going to be fine. Most cases. There's always exceptions in everything, obviously. But, and I really believe in mindset in that area. I really believe that when you're sick, that if you keep thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die, you're going to get sicker. And if you think that, okay, I'm sick now, but I'm going to be fine, actually, you're going to get better. And, you know, my surgeon, when the last time I saw him, he told me, you know, just promise me something. And I was like, anything. And he said, now go live.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that to me was just like, I took it to heart very seriously. I was like, I promise you. So if I meet today, someone just like me that is dealing with the same condition, I will make them promise that. I was like, you'll be okay, and just promise me you're going to go and live after that experience. You know, don't take your life for granted again. Just go live.
Beautiful.
Thank
you so much, 𝗓𝗓. That was amazing. Thank you so much. So many learnings here, and I'm sure you're going to inspire so many people. I'm going to finish by saying that I'm a wellness and lifestyle expert, and I help people to make tiny shifts that compound into massive impact in their lives. And I'll put all the details of your program on the comments below, and you know, I hope whoever is listening to this at a point in life where you want to cultivate self-love through photography, you can get in touch with 𝗓𝗓.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you for your time and connecting, and so it's such a pleasure. And what you do, I think it's so valuable, so important. Although every person has a different journey, but I do believe that we can learn from each other, we can get inspired by each other's journeys and our challenges and the struggles and the positive and the not so positive, all of it. So I really appreciate you and what you do, and just sharing these powerful stories with the world. and just standing behind, you know, your truth, and, you know, doing your best you can to help people find that light and that love inside.
Definitely.
Thank you. I thank you very much for that.
Awesome. Take care.
You too. Have a good night.
You too.